Good afternoon, everybody. This is another edition of the Passball Show brought to you by JohnPielli.com, as well as St. Aloysius Church and School in Jackson, New Jersey. Always a reminder, the show belongs to you, so anything that's on your mind in the world of baseball, sports, and unifying America, please let me know. You can comment on the Facebook Live or Periscope feed, or you can give the show a call if you want. Number is 732-364-3598. A couple things we're going to talk about today. I wanted to talk about CC Sabathia in a little bit, but obviously this weekend is very important in the world of sports, and I always said it applies a little more to the gamblers than it does the everyday sports fans. I think a lot of people will tune in to the Kentucky Derby and watch it, and will certainly have some interest in it. And, you know, the reality of it is that it really comes down to whoever wins. And most people, unless you have money on other horses or unless you are financially involved in betting on this particular race, the hope is that whoever wins the Kentucky Derby also wins the Preakness and also wins, the Belmont Stakes. Because that's what it comes down to. Every year it's about who's going to win the Triple Crown, or are you going to have a Triple Crown eligible horse? Outside of that, the importance of the Kentucky Derby as it starts, the major race season, and obviously, like I said, it applies to the gamblers. But if you're not a borderline degenerate gambler or a degenerate gambler, your interest in the Kentucky Derby is not going to be very wholehearted. You're going to be thinking about it in a way of, hey, whoever wins, I want to see whoever wins win the next race and win the other race and potentially be in the mix for the Triple Crown. Because that's what 99.9% of sports fans that follow horse racing want to see. They want to see a Triple Crown winner. So we'll talk about that, if it's on your mind, but that's pretty much all I have to say about that, quoting the great Forrest Gump. First thing I wanted to talk about today, and we see it all the time in baseball, and this has been one of my common points and threads that I've always had to throw in when it comes to the world of baseball. We understand that the game has changed. We understand that the game is a little bit different now. We know the analytics are taking over. We know essentially front offices are the ones that are here making the decisions for the managers on the field and are impacting the players more than anybody else. And if you're not seeing that, I apologize, because you're probably a little behind in the game and in the times. Technology obviously is at the forefront of just about everything, not just sports, not just baseball, but in life. So anybody that has the ability or has the resources to use technology in their, to their advantage is smarter by using it. And baseball is no different. So numbers that are being compiled by people in the front office front offices in baseball are at the forefront of a lot of things. They're impacting the lineups that are set each day. They're impacting who's playing and who's not playing. But what do we see every single day? We certainly see it when it comes to Yankee fans and Mets fans. It happens with Philly fans. It happens with Boston Red Sox fans. It happens when any fan of a team in Major League Baseball, as soon as the lineup is posted, what do we see? We see a bunch of people gravitating towards this. This manager doesn't know what he's doing. What is this manager doing playing this guy over this guy? What is this manager doing batting this guy leadoff or batting this guy fourth or fifth? Can we finally get it through our thick skulls that the managers are not the ones setting the lineups in Major League Baseball? And I understand we're talking about some fans that have been fans of Major League Baseball for 20, 30 years. So you're used to your regular cop-out. You're used to the regular person that you are to blame for every single thing that doesn't go right, for every single decision that's made in a game. It's got to be the manager. At some point, us as sports fans have to stop bullying the managers. And we talk about bullying as it applies to other facets of life. We're looking at a society that is getting very soft. I agree. But we're making sure that everybody is protected. And we are against bullying. We're against bullying in society. But not as it applies to a Major League Baseball manager. You could look at a person who has that job and have all the description and everything that would have been part of their job before taken away from them. And once it's taken away from them, they don't have any more say in it. They don't have any more say in the lineup anymore. They don't even have a say of what pitchers are available and what pitchers are not available. They barely have a say in when they make a pitching change. Yet fans are going to keep using this as a cop-out. The manager did this. The manager said that. No manager in Major League Baseball is good. And if you go back, trace your fandom to whatever sports team it is, I'm sure you've never been happy with a Major League Baseball manager that exists before. It's the easiest scapegoat. We understand that. But now, in 2019, we're talking about the little power that a manager has in Major League Baseball. But fans, what we keep doing, we keep treating these people as if they are the ones that are to blame for everything. And are we doing it just because it's the position? Are we doing it understanding that the game has changed? Or are we simply doing it because we have nobody to bitch and complain about? God forbid we ever blame the players. God forbid we take pop shots at the front offices that exist in Major League Baseball. You know, if a decision for a lineup isn't right, why aren't we blaming Brian Cashman? Why aren't we blaming people in the Yankees and the Mets front offices for decisions of who's playing and who's up on the Major League roster and who's in a bullpen and what innings certain pitchers are coming in? It's got to be Aaron Boone. It's got to be Mickey Callaway. It's got to be Gabe Kapler. It's got to be Alex Cora. These guys don't know what they're doing. Maybe at some point, as fans, we'll stop bullying managers, because you know what? When you're bullying Major League managers that don't have the power that they used to have before, all you're doing is showing your lack of baseball acumen. All you're doing is showing the fact that the game in 2019 of Major League Baseball has passed you by, and you're still living in the past. You're still living like it's 10 years ago. Wake up already. Major League Baseball managers have no say in anything that has to do with the lineup or the pitching matchups or the bullpen or the roster as it's constructed. But I promise you, 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock today, all over the country, the team's Twitter feed will send out its regular lineup for today, and the majority of you baseball fans are going to sit here and bitch and complain and blame the manager for setting the lineup. The manager has nothing to do with the lineup. This copyright and broadcast is authorized under internet rights granted by the World Wide Web and is solely for the entertainment of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, or other use of pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this show without the express written consent of the Past Ball Show, JohnPielli.com, and John Pielli, LLC, is prohibited. Any commercial or other use of the program, such as by charging admission for its showing, is similarly prohibited. So, this is another thing that kind of grinds my gears a little bit in baseball. And listen, I give a lot of people respect, because the time in 2019 is so different because there's so many more resources available to us. And I think there's a lot of fans and a lot of people that write and a lot of people that attend games, especially in the minor league level, that are providing so much more information for baseball than has ever been before. And I respect that. And I respect those people that write for different prospect sites and different online and Twitter sites, and they attend games and they do research on certain players and can tell, you know, the top 50 young minor league players in each respective organization. It takes a lot of work. It takes some talent. That takes a lot of patience. But we have to understand that we live in a game where only the elite of the elite prospects become superstars in Major League Baseball. There are only a couple Mike Trouts and Aaron Judges. You know, it's not a full group in each organization of 20 to 30 of these type of players. So I think with this, with the overemphasis, but at the same time, the extra research that's being done, the hard work that's put in by a lot of fans, and you know what? A lot of younger fans. We get information about certain players. We know who's playing for our favorite team in A-ball or in low A, or who from our last draft is playing in certain minor league games. And it's good to know. But there is a little bit of overemphasis on this. And, you know, Major League Baseball every year, whether it's different prospects and different websites and different entities by themselves, release a top 100 in all of Major League Baseball prospects. And we hear discussion about this over and over again. These, as we hit the halfway point here in the Pass Ball Show, we got the cuckoo clock, the whole thing. You hear it in the background. God bless you. So you talk about 100 players from any one of the 30 teams in Major League Baseball, and you get a good sense about some of these players. But you understand that even out of the top 100 in all of Major League Baseball, you're still not talking about 100 players that are all going to be all-stars. We're not talking about 100 players that are going to Major League Baseball's Hall of Fame. We're not talking about 100 players that are even going to make it to the majors. So the one thing that frustrates me, and we talk about grinding the gears today, why is it that we have so much emphasis on the top 30 prospects for each team? So we're talking about 100 prospects as they exist in baseball, 100 of the best young players that at some point are going to have an impact for some team. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But now we want to make sure, because we have a lot of younger fans that are attending all these games and doing research, and in some cases getting paid, but other cases are kind of using it as an internship to establish some experience writing, that they're doing all this emphasis on who's the best player at A-ball, who's the best player in lower A. Like, all these players are going to come up to the major leagues and be stars. And the bottom line is they're not. And you have to understand that they're not. You have to understand that if you go past 10 players in the minor leagues for each team, and even the San Diego Padres of the world, even the New York Yankees of the world, even any team that you talk about that could be considered the best amongst all the farm systems in Major League Baseball, have to understand that how deep are you going to go in your minor league system where you start talking about a drop-off, where you start talking about players that, you know what, we think they're pretty good, but in the grand scheme of things, they ain't going to be pretty good. No team has a top 30 player when we're talking about a guy that's going to get to the major leagues right away. In fact, that top 30 player in your farm system sucks. That top 20 player in your farm system sucks. So when you're going out there doing that research and you're saying, hey, this guy, according to some schmuck in the wilderness of the woods, says this guy is the top 23 prospect in the Yankees organization or the Padres organization or the Mets organization or whatever you want, that guy sucks. He's likely to not make it to the major leagues. And if he does make it to the major leagues, if he's a pitcher, he might be a 12th man on a pitching staff. He might be shuttled back and forth between AAA and the major leagues. And that might be the most you ever get out of him. If he's a position player, maybe he can help you out in a utility role off the bench. Once again, he's probably going to be shuttled back and forth between the majors and AAA. So why do I have to hear every time you have some prospect that's listed on the top 30 from a team, not in all of Major League Baseball, but from an individual team, you have to put that number next to him. If you put number 23 or number 20 or more, or probably further up than the number 11 when you talk about top 30 prospects of any individual team, you should put an asterisk and say that player sucks. That player is not going to be a big-time player. You know what? Every once in a while, somebody will surprise and will have an impact on a game in a way that they weren't expected. And when that happens, that's when you do your documentary about them. That's when you study that player and talk about what they overcame to get to where they are. But we got to stop giving these young players credit who aren't ever going to amount to anything. If you're not a top 10 player in a respective organization when it comes to prospects, there's no need to put a number by you. You have to go exceed the odds. Just a reminder that this is the famous Budweiser beer. We know of no brand produced by any other brewer that costs so much to brew and age. Our exclusive Beechwood aging produces a taste, the smoothness, and drinkability you will find in no beer at any cost. So the last thing that I wanted to discuss, and I brought this up on the show before too, you think about games as they're being played, whether it's baseball, whether it's really any sport. And obviously it's a little bit harder to talk about what I'm about to talk about as it applies to basketball and it applies to football. But I do think when we're talking about baseball, whether it's at the middle school level or the high school level or in the travel leagues, there should be some more of an effort to separate the people that are there as parents supporting a child to the coaches and the people that are close to the field. Because you think about whether it's Little League, whether it's any sort of travel ball, in some cases, in a lot of cases, the coaches that are there are volunteers. The umpires are not getting paid in a lot of cases. They're volunteers. So you got games going on, hypothetically, between a couple middle school students, and the result of the game doesn't matter. Sure, the kids are competing, but what does it mean to the parents? And you find in some cases that parents come to the game with this venom that they're pretty pissed off about things that aren't going on right in their own life, that they can't wait to make a big deal out of nothing. They're yelling at umpires, they're yelling at coaches, they're yelling at kids. And I think the only way to straighten this out is to take your bleachers that are right behind the dugout in a game that doesn't mean anything and put them outside of the fence in the outfield. Take these miserable, only own child, self-serving adults that all they care about is their kids and put them on the bleachers in the outfield. Keep them away from the dugout. Keep them away from the distance from coaches. Keep them away from the umpires. Because you know what? All you're there to do is watch your kid play. You're not there to beg the coach for a little more playing time. You're not there to yell at the umpire or criticize the coach, who in most cases are there volunteering. What you're there to do is to give little Johnny or little Jane a pat on the back and say you did a good job. Especially when we're talking about levels that aren't even that competitive. We're not talking about professional baseball, professional softball here. We're not talking about the college level where you're right on the verge of perhaps being drafted or could potentially become a pro. We're talking about kids that are out there playing for fun. And the last thing they need is some asshole parent screaming from the back of the bench of the dugout while the game's playing. First of all, that player, that fan, that parent, whatever the hell you want to call them, should be taken off the field and barred from coming back. But to keep this from happening, I suggest bleachers in the outfield. You heard of angels in the outfield? How about bleachers in the outfield? How about you take those bleachers that are right in back of the kids' dugouts, what all they want to do is enjoy themselves and have a good time, and you throw them in the outfield, in back behind the fence, where you can maybe hear, if you're a kid, good job, Johnny, good job, Jane. But that's it. You're out of the wrath of the coaches, you're out of the wrath of the umpires, and you know what? For the goodness of sake of your own children, you're away from them too. Just a reminder that Castrol provides maximum protection against viscosity and thermal breakdown. This is the Pass Ball Show, brought to you by JohnPielli.com, as well as St. Aloysius Church and School in Jackson, New Jersey. I did have to bring this up because CC Sabathia of the Yankees got his 3,000th strikeout yesterday. And, I don't want to make it a time contingent thing, but the bottom line is from here on forward, CC Sabathia is going to be known as a pitcher that has gotten 3,000 strikeouts in his career. And it didn't just happen last night. It happened over the whole duration of his 19-year Major League Baseball career. And in the history of baseball, and I think this is a number, this is something that's probably going to change, I wouldn't be surprised if over the next 5 years you see a series of pitchers added to this club, whether it's a Justin Verlander, whether it's a Max Scherzer. I think Zach Greinke is a good possibility. Cole Hamels may get there. Clayton Kershaw, if he stays healthy, will likely get there as well. And you look at names like, John Lester as far as being a possibility. And obviously, in the game as it's played right now, we understand that hitters are striking out at a ridiculous rate. And pitchers are going to benefit from that, and they're going to be striking out more batters than they ever have before. But CC Sabathia, you wouldn't have thought it. You could think of a lot of really good pitchers in Major League Baseball history, a lot of pitchers that accumulated a lot of strikeouts. CC Sabathia is only the 17th pitcher in Major League Baseball history to get 3,000 or more strikeouts. And amongst the list of the 3,000 strikeout pitchers, only Curt Schilling and Roger Clemens are not in baseball's Hall of Fame. So I think that makes you start to look at CC Sabathia. Perhaps if you were a naysayer on Sabathia being a Hall of Famer, or were kind of not looking at him as a surefire Hall of Famer, it probably does a lot to strengthen his case. You know, John Smoltz, Bob Gibson, Pedro Martinez, Fergie Jenkins, Phil Necro, Greg Maddux, Walter Johnson, Gaylord Perry, Don Sutton, Tom Seaver, Burt Blyleven, Steve Carlton, Randy Johnson, and Nolan Ryan are all in baseball's Hall of Fame. Roger Clemens should be. And I'll table that discussion for another day. No doubt, Curt Schilling should be. You go to johnpielli.com, you'll see the numbers and a comparison I made against another legitimate Hall of Famer. There's no reason that Curt Schilling shouldn't be in baseball's Hall of Fame. Bottom line is, you know, the media doesn't like him. He doesn't like the media. So writers in baseball are going to continue to use their little pen, or now their mouse, as a weapon and hold back a legitimate player that belongs in baseball's Hall of Fame. But I digress, because I don't want to get back into this Hall of Fame discussion about the Hall of Exclusion and everybody that is held out for really more of political gain than anything. Once again, I digress. CC Sabathia looks more like a Hall of Famer with 3,000 strikeouts than he did without it. And unfortunately, we talk about wins in Major League Baseball, and it's hard for pitchers to compile victories and get close to 300 wins. We used to use that as a magic number to decide whether a pitcher was Hall of Fame worthy or not. I look at winning percentage, and CC Sabathia sits there at 616, which is an outstanding winning percentage. One thing that certainly is not going to determine whether he's a Hall of Famer or not, I love the fact that he's made 542 starts and is never relieved in a game. In fact, just once in his Major League Baseball career, 2011, in the division series against the Detroit Tigers, has CC Sabathia ever pitched in relief in a Major League game. And he really is the example of this generation's, trustworthy, constant guy. From his Major League debut season of 2001, how many times has he missed 30 starts? Once in 2006 with the Cleveland Indians. And obviously, if you go back to the last couple years with the Yankees, 3 of the last 4 seasons will probably miss 30 starts this year. But the bottom line is, this guy was trusted to go out there and get 200 innings and 30 starts every year. And he just about did it every year of his career. Won 20 games for the first time in his career in 2010. And his winning percentage shows it. His postseason success has shown it. And now he can throw 3,000 strikeouts. And I bet you when CC Sabathia is done, and he's going to retire after this season, 5 years from now we'll start talking about him as a potential Hall of Famer. And here's a guy who's been one of the more consistent pitchers of this generation. So congratulations to CC Sabathia, 3,000 strikeouts. I look forward to see you getting into Cooperstown and elected, hopefully, by the baseball writers in the near future. Just a little bit of a recap of the Past Ball Show today, and as always, I do want to thank everybody for tuning in. We talk about bullying as it applies to Major League Baseball managers. That's the one cop-out that fans continue to do. And if you listen to my rant a little bit at the beginning of the show, I'll give you a little bit of a warning. I get a little upset in it, but I do think, and this is my short-term memory kicking in now, I hit some major points talking about how Major League Baseball managers are not what they were before. They don't have as much control over the game. They don't make their own lineups. They don't select the players that they have on their own roster. They don't make their own pitching changes. They don't determine how long a pitcher is going to be kept in a game. This is all made by people in the organization that have a higher rank. And that is a sign that this show will be over. I do want to thank everybody for tuning in. This is the Past Ball Show, brought to you by johnpielli.com, as well as St. Aloysius Church and School in Jackson, New Jersey. God bless you, and as always, I'll see you on the other side.